They have brought the jury back in. They are getting ready to go after a short break inside the courtroom. Cross-examination day 3 of Michael Cohen, the former President Donald Trump's attorney and so-called fixer. I wanted you to see these headlines that are popping right now, though. The Trump prosecution wind down proves it was always a witch hunt. Another, with Trump prosecutors expected to wrap up, it's past time for Judge Merchan to dismiss the case. And a third headline, this from the Washington Examiner, Trump trial, verdict now, law later. And I've got a little bit of that op-ed as well that I want to share with you. Here's a quote. What is disturbing here is that the Manhattan District Attorney dedicated 7 years, countless thousands of lawyer hours, and many millions of dollars to bring a case that as a Class E felony is equivalent in seriousness to the unlicensed sale of an ounce of marijuana or hitting your ex's car door with a hammer. So relatively minor. Yet they still can't seem to prove it. That, again, a quote from that op-ed in the Washington Examiner. I'm bringing back now Brett Tolman, Matt Whitaker, also joining us, Guy Benson and Steve Hilton as we round out this hour. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you about what's going on in the courtroom and what really the expectation should be for today, should the defense have a chance to redirect.
Well, obviously, the government is going to try to rehabilitate Michael Cohen. I think it's almost impossible, since he's admitted on the stand to lying about a phone call, embezzling money from the Trump organization. But, Judge Merchan, I think, has, allowed a lot of highly prejudicial but irrelevant evidence, whether it was Stormy Daniels' testimony on the one hand, or this inference of campaign finance violations that are non-existent under federal law. I think that he's committed a lot of reversible error, but that's not going to help them unless they can convince this jury that is the Trump team, who doesn't bear any burden. But the jury's going to have to believe that no crime was committed here, and maybe Judge Merchan will issue a directed verdict. I think that's highly unlikely.
Brett, what's interesting, and I caught that word, Matt Whitaker raised it from he stole from the Trump organization to he was embezzling money, which is how most of us know it. And it's usually right next to conspiracy. So we'll have to see how far that goes. Although, like you both have said, we doubt that the Manhattan District Attorney would ever go after Michael Cohen for what he said on the stand. But the reason that seems important to me is sooner or later, you almost don't have to do the job of breaking the credibility for this witness. He's doing it on his own. But is that enough, Brett?
Well, Harris, he was on life support before today. I mean, at this point, I think you have to just say, no, the witness is no longer relevant with us or supportive of what the prosecution is trying to do. Once he has indicated both the conflicts in terms of him hating Trump, but then add on top of that layers of inappropriate money that he was earning out of his relationship, a sort of pay-to-play scheme that he was setting up on his own. And then on top of that, he's stealing from his client. I mean, this is a train wreck. There's no life support. There's no pulse at this point. You just have to, as a prosecutor, say, you know what, we just probably wasted our entire investigation by putting this man on the stand. And it does highlight how this was a political witch hunt as opposed to a genuine, sincere effort to bring facts and the law together to present to a jury to go after Donald Trump.
Look, I want to go political now with you, Steve Hilton, because America may not be watching minute by minute of this, but they're watching the minute by minute moments of not being able to pay their bills, millions of them. So they're looking at this case and they're thinking, wait, in some way, shape or form, my tax dollars are paying for this. When you have somebody who's willing to steal from the organization and admit it on the stand, that is the definition of motive, that you hate that person and might do anything.
Exactly, and they can see that right up and down at every aspect of this case. The Democrats and the prosecutors and all the media cheerleaders, they look pretty foolish at this point because, as we've just heard, it is absolutely clear that this is entirely political. And the political effect that it's having, certainly within the Republican Party, we talked about the wider electorate earlier. Within the Republican Party, it's so interesting. I was just at the California GOP convention this weekend. Absolute unity in the Republican Party. It has actually brought the party together fiercely in support of Trump. Again, an example of how this has backfired. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is running around the country, and within his party, his base is turning to him and calling him Genocide Joe and turning his back on them at these events. So it is just a political catastrophe, the exact opposite of what they intended.
You know, Guy, what Steve is talking about is that HBCU Morehouse campus, where Biden gave the commencement speech this weekend. And yeah, a few of them turned their backs on him, but they were not allowed to protest. The school blocked that. So I thought that was really interesting. We didn't really it was like El Paso when he went to the border the first time as president. Everything was sanitized for his protection. It could have been so much more reality for him, but it wasn't.
I'm not sure he's living in real reality. I think he and his team have created a bubble for him. I saw a story just the other day that they're now whispering to reporters that the president doesn't believe the polls showing him down. I think that's hugely risky. If you are shielded from how your own base feels about you and shielded about how swing voters feel about you in swing states, that makes it harder to win re-election in a country that's generally very unhappy with the job you're doing. So I think that bubble mentality might feel good moment to moment, but in terms of his political interest toward November, it's dangerous for him.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, this might be the longest that anybody spends talking about Biden, his failures today, because all eyes on Trump. And whether or not he can beat down the lawfare that has so wickedly raised its head. I mean, Democrats are saying, I'm sure you guys are seeing it all over the place, Cohen is the pin in the balloon, just letting all the oxygen out. Matt, final thoughts.
Well, and this is the biggest challenge, I think, as we head into the first presidential debate and then into the November election. I think, the contrast between the Trump policies that worked during the Trump administration and then what Joe Biden has done by dismantling the border and allowing millions of illegal aliens to come into our country. High inflation, as you pointed out. I mean, gas, groceries, the basic fundamental elements of families. And then the crime in our major cities. I mean, I had some folks trying to convince me over the weekend that crime in New York City is actually down and it's the safest place. And I know that those that live there don't believe that and don't experience that every day. So, it is a bubble. It is Joe Biden is not in reality. The American people are living this nightmare right now.
Look, we've seen some twisting of the numbers in major cities where certain avenues of crime may be down, but the ones where people put their hands on you and rob you and rape you and those types of things are where people really fear, like going to the subway when you don't have a car in a city of, 9 million people almost. Last quick word from you, Brett. And could we be looking at a situation, though, that a New York jury just does what a New York jury might do anyway?
Yeah, and I think that's why you see such a catastrophe of a case brought in the first place. I think they were counting on New Yorkers to just automatically rubber stamp a conviction. I don't think that's going to happen. Not after you've seen what has happened in this courtroom, the witnesses they've presented, the ridiculousness of the legal theories. There are savvy people, included people on that jury that live in New York who start to see and understand. And I think they're going to, at a minimum, be a hung jury.
Yeah. I mean, belief in the system, believe in the American people. We will see how it shakes out. Covering it stem to stern. Gentlemen, thank you for being with me.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.